Hi, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Shireen, and today I'm going to be doing my first installment of my All About Acid series. So this video is going to be about salicylic acid. Salicylic acid is a product that I use in my daily routine. There are two main ways that I like to use salicylic acid. The first is with the Sunday Riley UFO oil. UFO stands for Ultra Clarifying Face Oil. That doesn't make sense. I don't know what UFO stands for. But this is a 1.5% salicylic acid treatment oil, and it's mixed in with tea tree oil. So that's the oil part of it. Tea tree oil is a dry oil, and it's known to have properties that help combat acne. So that's the first way that I like to use it, and I use this in the mornings or at night, so once a day in some form, and it has a dropper. And I'll typically use about half of this amount on my face. So I'll do one drop on my forehead and then one drop on each of my cheeks, and then I'll rub it into my skin. If I use it during the day, I'll wear it under my makeup, and it gives my face this like beautiful dewy look, which I love. I also use the Origins Super Spot Remover treatment, and this is also 1.5% salicylic acid concentrate. And with this guy, when you squeeze the bottle, a little drop comes out like so, and you just dab this on top of any pimples that you might have, and it helps dry them out and just make it less likely that they're going to scar and reduce the amount of time that they're going to, live on your face. It won't make them disappear quickly. I haven't found like any kind of like magical cure like that. So these are the ways that I like to use salicylic acid in my regular skincare routine. I'll put up the structure of salicylic acid here now, and I'm going to give a brief overview of the primary benefits of salicylic acid and why so many people like to use it in their skincare. So salicylic acid is a beta-hydroxy acid, also called a BHA. So that means that the hydroxy group on salicylic acid is in the beta position. So the beta position is just how far away it is from the carboxylic acid measured in terms of carbon. So the alpha position is the first carbon group, or the first carbon element after the carboxylic acid. The beta position is the second carbon. This means that salicylic acid is oil soluble because it means that salicylic acid is able to participate in resonance. Resonance is just the redistribution of electrons throughout the compound. So in this case, electrons can be redistributed such that salicylic acid becomes nonpolar. Since oil is nonpolar, salicylic acid is able to dissolve in oil. And this is in contrast with AHAs, or alpha hydroxy acids, which have the hydroxy group in the alpha position. These are not oil soluble. Because salicylic acid is oil soluble, it's able to break apart desmosomes, and desmosomes are the attachments between adjacent skin cells. So desmosomes are what hold your skin together in a sense. This is called desmolytic action. So this leads to the unclogging of pores as well as desquamation, shedding of skin or skin renewal, and this is generally considered an anti-aging property. Salicylic acid is also known to have antimicrobial properties, so it's used to treat acne. Now let's go into the research. So I've linked all the sources that I referenced below, and these are all peer-reviewed articles, so these are all sources that I consider reputable, and they're all studies that demonstrated some kind of significant information or revealed something about the properties of salicylic acid. You'll find that many of the studies are not particularly recent, but many of these studies were formative in terms of determining the uses of salicylic acid, and so they're still important and still relevant today. So our first study establishes evidence that salicylic acid assists in skin renewal through desquamation, which is what I addressed earlier, and it is from the 1976 British Journal of Dermatology. As part of the study, concentrations of 2 to 12% salicylic acid in the form of a cream were applied to the skin of 23 subjects, all of whom had normal skin. So they didn't suffer from acne, they didn't have exceptionally dry or oily skin, or any other skin conditions. After 1 week, biopsies were taken from the test and the control sites, and scanning electron microscopy of these biopsies showed that there were higher concentrations of salicylic acid in the test sites relative to the control sites, meaning that the salicylic acid was actually present to cause the effects, and revealed changes suggesting that salicylic acid causes desquamation by dissolution of intracellular material. So this is the same mechanism that I explained earlier. The next study is from a 2008 edition of IFSCC and also demonstrates that salicylic acid assists in desquamation, so just further evidence. This study involved a skin staining treatment using 2% salicylic acid at a pH of 3.12 and showed that salicylic acid significantly increased exfoliation by 10.9% compared to the placebo. These results were statistically significant. The study also showed that salicylic acid at a pH of 6.5, which is close to a neutral pH, exerted the same amount of desmolytic activity. Lastly, when compared to glycolic acid at a pH of 6.5, salicylic acid gave an 8.2% increase in desquamation, which means that it is a more effective exfoliant at a close to neutral pH than glycolic acid is. This particular information is relevant, and I wanted to note it because the UFO oil has a close to neutral pH. So this just establishes that salicylic acid is still effective at a close to neutral pH, whereas glycolic acid, which is an AHA, is not. Our third study showed that salicylic acid may help prevent skin tumors. It was from a 2006 edition of the Journal of Investigative Dermatology and involved a chemical peel on UVB-irradiated hairless mice, so not people. It was prepared in a vehicle known to act on the stratum corneum. This is the outermost layer of the skin and is composed primarily of dead keratinocytes, or dead skin cells. In the skin of these mice, the expression of the p53 protein, which is a crucial tumor suppressor protein in humans as well, was intensely suppressed. And this means that the p53 protein was no longer able to act, and this means that the mice were particularly vulnerable to skin cancer. However, treatment with salicylic acid led to the normalization of keratinocyte or skin cell differentiation and the suppression of tumor development in these mice. Our fourth study is a meta-analysis of 3 studies, and it's from the 2010 edition of the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology, and these 3 studies show the anti-aging benefits of salicylic acid in human skin. So in the first of these studies, salicylic acid increased fibrillin and collagen biomarkers in the treatment group relative to the control group. Fibrillin and collagen are both very important structural elements of skin. These results were comparable to a commercially available retinol cream. I won't talk about retinols in this video, but if it's something that you know about, this information might be interesting to you. In the second study, salicylic acid significantly reduced wrinkle depth and skin roughness at 4 to 8 weeks of daily treatment relative to the placebo. In the last of these studies, expert assessment determined that 4 to 8 weeks of daily treatment with salicylic acid led to reductions in wrinkle depth. Non-expert graders also determined that the salicylic acid formulation was superior to the placebo. Expert graders in this case were dermatologists. Although the article notes that the mechanism of the anti-aging action of salicylic acid is not understood, it does conclude that these studies demonstrate that salicylic acid does have benefits when it comes to anti-aging. Our fifth study is from a 2013 issue of the Journal of Drugs in Dermatology and addresses the efficacy of salicylic acid in reducing hyperpigmentation and dark spots. Hyperpigmentation may be a clinical condition that you have, or it might just be like scarring left over from acne. So in 54 multi-ethnic subjects, the efficacy of salicylic acid was compared to that of prescription generic 4% hydroquinone, which is the benchmark prescription for skin lightening. So the article uses the phrase skin lightening, but skin lightening doesn't mean like skin bleaching, it just means reduction of skin hyperpigmentation. The subjects used the treatment twice daily for 12 weeks. In this study, salicylic acid demonstrated comparable tolerance and efficacy to the benchmark hydroquinone, and was assessed by clinical grading, physical measurement of spot size using image analysis, and questionnaire analysis from the subjects. Subjects also reported that the product had better texture, pleasantness to use, and feeling on the skin. So effectively, it was as good as the benchmark prescription hydroquinone in reducing the hyperpigmentation and the darkness, but was easier and more pleasant to use. Our sixth study is from the Journal of Skin Research and Technology. So this 2013 study addresses the efficacy and safety of 1.5% salicylic acid, which is the concentration that I use in my products, in the treatment of facial acne. A total of 20 patients with facial acne, aged 19 to 32 years, were treated with a topical 1.5% salicylic acid cream and instructed to apply the cream as a thin film over the affected areas twice daily for 4 weeks. At day 0, as well as at the end of each week, investigators measured inflammatory severity, number of papules and pustules, and patient satisfaction. Overall, 95% of patients showed improvement. So 20% had complete clearing of acne, 30% had significant improvement, 15% had moderate improvement, and 30% showed mild improvement. 5% did not respond to the treatment, and side effects weren't observed in any of the patients. So from this, investigators concluded that the treatment was most effective in patients with mild to moderate acne. Furthermore, the Journal of Seminars in Dermatology in 1990 published an article that explored the influence of salicylic acid on human resident skin flora. This study concluded that salicylic acid, mainly used in dermatotherapy, I don't actually know what that means, it's just a phrase that was used in the article, as a keratolytic agent fulfills the requirement for a reduction in bacterial density, demonstrating antimicrobial efficacy. So that's something that I just briefly wanted to mention to supplement the other study that showed that salicylic acid was effective in reducing acne. So if you've used AHAs such as glycolic acid, you'll know that the labels often recommend using it with a sunscreen. So this next study looks into whether salicylic acid should be used with a sunscreen as well, operationalized as salicylic acid increasing the sensitivity of skin to UV radiation. So this is a 2009 study from the Journal of Dermatological Science, and in the study, 14 subjects participated. 3 of the 4 test sites on the mid-back of each subject was treated daily, so Monday through Friday, for a total of 3.5 weeks with either 10% glycolic acid or 2% salicylic acid or a control. The 4th site on the racks didn't receive any treatment, so another form of control. After the last treatment, each site was exposed to solar simulated radiation, so that's meant to mimic the effects of sunlight, and shave biopsies from all 4 sites were obtained. Treatment with glycolic acid resulted in increased sensitivity of the skin to solar simulated radiation, as well as DNA damage and sunburn formation. Salicylic acid did not produce significant changes in any of these biomarkers. The study implies that it is safe to use salicylic acid without sunscreen. Of course, you still always want to be using sunscreen on your face to prevent cumulative sun damage, which does occur regardless of whether you use salicylic acid or not. But this was particularly notable because glycolic acid exacerbates sun damage, whereas salicylic acid doesn't. Okay, so I thought that this penultimate study was interesting because the way that I primarily use salicylic acid involves an oil. In this 1984 study from the Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences, researchers concluded that the transport of nonpolar materials such as salicylic acid can be increased by an order of magnitude by the addition of small amounts of fatty acids, such as oils. So I think that in addition to providing you with the benefits of tea tree oil, this product makes the salicylic acid more effective because it provides a better vehicle for the transport of salicylic acid into the skin. Okay. Our final study is from the Journal of Food and Function in 2011 and addresses the benefits of ingesting salicylates, which are a form of salicylic acid. This, of course, is not really directly related to the other content of this video, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. So many plants, such as myrtle and willow, use salicylic acid and related compounds as part of their defense system against pathogen attack and environmental stress. Salicylic acid is also used for medical purposes by humans, dating as far back as the 3rd millennium BC, for its anti-inflammatory and antipyretic, meaning fever-reducing effects. And then major food sources of salicylic acid include tomatoes, fruits and fruit juice, tea, wine, and some herbs and spices. The study does note that it's unclear if the Western diet can provide enough salicylates to exert the disease preventative activity otherwise observed in salicylic acid. So those are all of the studies that I found that I thought would be appropriate to include. I thought that it was really interesting to learn about all of the benefits of salicylic acid, and it's always kind of heartening to see research establishing the potential benefits of the skincare that you're using. So hopefully you also thought that this was interesting, and maybe this will encourage you to incorporate salicylic acid into your skincare routine. Of course, the research doesn't guarantee that you're going to see any of these benefits if you start using salicylic acid regularly as part of your routine. Just because some people benefit from it doesn't mean that you as an individual will. Regarding my experience, which I might as well just address for a couple of minutes before this video is over, I do find that salicylic acid helps calm my breakouts a little bit. It doesn't prevent breakouts completely. It doesn't completely eradicate them, so that's something to consider. It also does dry out my skin a little bit more, so when I use salicylic acid, I tend to stay away from, my lighter moisturizers, and I tend to try to use a little bit of a heavier moisturizer to prevent that dryness. Tea tree oil also is known to dry out the skin, so something to consider in case you have dry skin. So that's all that I had prepared for today. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you subscribe to my channel and that you come back for my next video. For now, have a great day. Bye.